Hello, friends. This is Pastor Carol Jeanette, interim pastor at Lord of Life Lutheran Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I hope you're doing well. I hope that you're aware of God's presence and grace and love in your life, and that you're sharing that with others around you. Now, a quick note of joy before I get to the tough stuff today. Yesterday, we had our first drive-in worship service at Lord of Life. The sun was shining as we celebrated the day of Pentecost, as we celebrated being a little bit closer to each other than we have been in a long time, and as we celebrated Holy Communion for the first time in a long time. It was a wonderful worship service. Thanks be to God. Now to a more serious tone. It was about 2.5 months ago that I wrote the first of my Pastor Carol's Contemplations. At that point in time, I was waking up each morning, sometimes way too early, and looking at the news reports to find out what had happened overnight with the coronavirus. I wanted to know what this virus was doing. I wanted to hear about how it was devastating lives everywhere in the world and how we were responding to it. And I wanted, in the midst of that difficulty, to find God sightings. Now, in the last few mornings for the past week or so, it's not the coronavirus that's waking me up. It's the death of an African American man, George Floyd, under the knee of a white police officer. And it's what's happened since then and is still happening in the aftermath of that death that keeps me up or gets me up in the morning. Firebombs and pepper spray, looting and tear gas. This is not going to get us anywhere near justice nor anywhere near peace. I'm grieving. I'm frustrated. I'm apprehensive. I'm angry. And yeah, I'm a little scared. I'm very aware of my position of white privilege and that it's hard, if not impossible, for me to understand the experiences of my brothers and sisters of color. I'm aware of how easy it would be for me to just stay isolated. Isn't that what I'm supposed to be doing now? And not get involved. But I'm also aware that that does not work. Most of all, right now, I'm trying to think my way through this and figure out if there are responses that I can make that can be helpful, even a little bit. So bear with me while I broaden the context. I always have to do that when I'm trying to think something through. I begin with my basic understanding of God, of the divine, that God is on the side of life in the broadest possible way. To me, that's what a God of love is about. This means that all lives matter. Whatever race, color, belief system, intelligence level, opinions, age, doesn't matter what it is. God is on the life side of life for all. This is the hard part. God is on the side of life even for those who don't value the lives of others. Jesus was trying to get that whole point across when he reached out to those who in his society were not valued. It was a way not only to love these people who weren't valued, but also to teach and challenge those around him to be on the side of love. Now, to me, that means that as a follower of Jesus, I am called to be on the side of life and love. So, how do I do that? Okay. I began with my basic understanding of God. Now I need to turn to what it is I know about people in general. I know that people vary significantly. We're all different. I know there are some who value only their own lives and the lives of those who are like them. But I also know that that's not everybody. I know that when people are hurt, anger is a natural response. And I know that anger and reactivity usually don't bring about the changes that we desire, but they do generate increased anger and increased reactivity until it looks like we've got a herd of horses in a stampede. I know that telling a herd to calm down or stop what they're doing is not particularly effective, nor for that matter is threatening them. From my study of systems thinking and my work with anxious groups over the years, I've learned that the best thing I can do is to be present, to be a little calmer than the group, and to stay connected to people, even to those whose opinions are very different from mine. Staying connected means listening, It also means articulating what I believe, but not shoving it down someone else's throat. I think this is a way to be on the side of life and a way to love one another. This is such a difficult time. The pandemic is bad enough. And the pandemic exacerbates underlying problems that are too often ignored or pushed down below the surface. And when these problems erupt, we hurry to place blame. It's the police officer. It's his or her training. It's the superiors who promoted someone who mistreated people. It's the larger system. It's the protesters. It's the rabble rousers. It's a far right group. It's a far left group. It's the mayors who are not being tough enough. It's uncaring leaders who have no compassion for people. Blaming right now is not particularly helpful. Now, for me, for this one individual, a person of faith, I need to look at two things. The first is, how do I contribute to these problems? The second is, how can I function in a way that is on the side of life? These are the demanding questions that occupy me at this point. I don't have answers, but for right now, I thank God for our law enforcement professionals who have managed to stay calm and caring, yet clear about their responsibility to protect the community when faced with intensity and violence, or at the very least, the potential of violence. You are in my prayers. I thank God for people who peacefully protest, affirming the value of all lives and making that a public statement. You also are in my prayers. I also pray that those who use this tension to seek their own gain rather than seek justice and peace will have a change of heart. And if they don't have a change of heart, I pray that they're going to be found and held accountable for their actions. Finally, I pray for myself and for all the faithful that we will have courage and strength and compassion to love all God's children, not just in words, but in deeds as well. Guide us, O God, in these difficult times. Amen.